Wiley, a member of Epic Church. Lori?
Sorry about that. Dear God, I just want to thank you for your guidance and love as we look to a new year. Let us reflect on the Christmas season. Remember the redemption that you provided for all of us. I just want to thank you personally, as many do. Thank you for our mayor, their guidance through COVID, our city council and the city staff. Thank you for their flexibility. And Lord, I just pray for our businesses and our neighbors for their health. Give those on the council a right outlook, a sound mind, and a good heart. And let us work together to do what is your good purpose. We thank you and ask you for your help as we enter a new year, and ask that you just help us to remember, just love God and love people as we walk our city square and through our neighborhoods. In this, we pray for unity and for health in 2021. It's in your name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
DeLucy.
here,
Steinmeier.
Here.
Hobart.
Here.
Mayor Weir.
Here. Madam City Clerk, were there any citizens who requested to speak to the council this evening?
There were no citizens that signed up.
Okay, is there anyone on the in the meeting who would like to address the council this evening? Okay, hearing none, Mayor Pro Tem will move to the consent agenda.
Mayor Weir, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
second,
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 2.
Okay. Any others?
Madam Mayor, number 1.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, is this the time to pull 20-512, or is that separate because it's under the first reading?
No, we'll get to that when we get to that part of the agenda. So I'll make a note that you want to talk about it. Okay. Are there any other items? Okay. Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, will you please call a roll on the consent agenda minus item 2 and item 1?
Council members Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes,
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Councilmember Stewart, item number 2.
Just a couple of questions. So it says that CBIZ's scope of service indicates they can reduce healthcare costs by 10 to 30%. How is that calculated, and how we find out how much money they would actually save?
Sure. So thanks for your question. I'm not sure if Mike Veet, the chair of the Stay Well Committee, is participating in the meeting, or Brian Kidney, if you all want to speak to and the proposal, since you all were on the evaluation committee.
Good morning, Adam. Good evening, Adam, Mayor Weir, City Council members. My name is Michael Veet. I'm the chair of the Stay Well Committee. Councilmember Stewart, that's actually a great question. With the proposal that CBIZ sent in to us, that the group sat down and looked at, and the Stay Well Committee actually formally made the recommendation to the city manager to enter into this contract. it was that 10 to 30% is an estimation of what they can save in our plan until we actually sit down and they execute the contract. And I believe in the agreement, it was supposed to take effect January 1 of 2021. And that's going to be something that CBIZ is going to have to really look into and dive into in the first 30 days of this contract, and looking at our plan to where we can send over plan documents, and then our former consultant is able to transfer that information that they have to CBIZ so that CBIZ can really look into it. CBIZ they're really going to give us a review of our plan and help us make some changes that are going to be beneficial not only to the city but also the members of the plan as well. So that's kind of where they're coming up with the 10 to 30%. It's really an estimation, but we feel as a committee that CBIZ can get that done.
Okay, so let's just say they do the minimum and they save 10%. Do we have any idea what kind of savings that would be?
With the way healthcare costs are right now, I would, 10% could be a drastic amount. I do not have a specific number because of kind of where we're at with the stable committee. And, you look at the trend of the market with healthcare, just on the medical side of it, we're looking anywhere from 12 to a 15% increase across the market. And then you get into the pharmacy side and you're leaning more towards a 15% increase annually. So, it's really hard to put a number on that, but we feel confident as a committee and talking with CBIZ and dealing with them in the past that they'll be able to help us out and kind of restructure our plan to be beneficial to what would be the most bang for our buck for the members of this plan in the city of Independence.
Okay, that's all I have. I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Item number 2 passes. Councilmember DeLucci, item number 1.
Item number 1, Madam Mayor, regards Southland Court and Noland Road, and it's a fairly large project. I would just like a little presentation for the citizens, please.
Sure thing. So this is a development agreement with Andy's Frozen Custard for donation of the right-of-way on Lynn Court on the east side of Nolan Road. This is for the future realignment of this intersection. This project is part of our proposed CIP that you all have not seen yet, but it's in our draft. It's planned in the CIP in 22 and 23 fiscal years. This project the intent of it is to address increased traffic that we're seeing on Nolan Road and I-70, so to alleviate some of the traffic flow issues that we're seeing between 39th Street and 42nd Street. Approval would allow this project to proceed as the development occurs with Andy's Frozen Custard. This minimizes the negative impact and disruption that this business and other businesses in the area would encounter if we were to delay this project until it's in our CIP budget. A nice part of this project is that the Nolan Road CID has agreed to front the money with a 0% interest rate until this is actually in our CIP, and then we'll reimburse the CID at that point in time.
And Mr. Norris, this in fact was something the city was going to do in the next couple of years anyway. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was part of our proposed CIP. It's certainly an issue and an area of concern for MoDOT as well.
Thank you. That's all I had, Madam Mayor.
Okay, would you like to make a motion for approval?
I move approval of item 1.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Item number 1 passes. This takes us to our public hearing. This is a public hearing for the application by Steve Ipock requesting a rezoning from I-1 industrial to R-12 two-family residential for the property located at 1201 South Osage Avenue. This is new information only. Is Mr. Scannell going to conduct this public hearing?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director. This application was heard before the Planning Commission on November 17th of this year. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this rezoning application. This rezoning is really to correct some miszoned property along Osage, and there's no new information to report on this case.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
An ordinance or bill number 20-094, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District I-1 Industrial to District R-12 two-family residential for the property at 1201 South Osage in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hub,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes. This brings us to our non-ordinance action items. Madam City Clerk.
Council action, non-ordinance items action number, or I'm sorry, item number 1. Council action is requested for consideration of establishing priorities of Independence Power and Light financial surpluses.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Huff.
Yes, I would move that we postpone this until, I guess, I'm trying to figure this out. So are we canceling the study session for the 4th?
No, so we do have a study session scheduled for next Monday, which would be the 28th. It's appearing that we may cancel that study session. There's just not much on the agenda, and I'm sure everybody would enjoy a little more time off around the holidays. But we will have our regular meeting on January the 4th. And we do have scheduled for that meeting a public hearing on the item that was presented last week on the study session regarding the financial policies for IPL. And then that is scheduled for to be on the agenda as a resolution and be voted on January the 4th.
January what? I'm sorry.
The 4th, that would be the first regular council meeting in January.
So that will be the 11th, I guess. Is that correct?
The 4th.
Oh, the 4th?
Uh-huh.
Well, what I was wanting to do is make sure that we get through this public hearing tonight on this one and go from there. So I guess I really won't need to postpone it if that's what we're doing, correct?
Well, if you want it.
Yeah, I want to postpone until the next meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay, I mean, we can put this back on as a non-ordinance action item on January the 4th because the other item will be a resolution, so that will be on the consent agenda. So what I'm saying is, you know, we'll have the public hearing on the other item, we'll have that resolution, and then we can still consider this item if that's necessary as well. So you can put it on for the
Yes.
January 4th. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'd like to do.
And we would have a hearing. Okay. Madam City Clerk, does that make?
Yes, we need a motion to postpone for this item, and then if we do that for the following item, we'll need a second motion to postpone at that time too.
Okay, so is there a second on the motion to postpone till January 4th?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Motion passes. Councilman Huff, did you want to postpone number 2 as well?
Yes, that one also, I believe that staff is going to give us a presentation on that.
Okay,
So I'll just assume we wait until after we see what's going on.
okay, very good. So would you like,
I move.
so moved and seconded to postpone item number 2 until January 4th. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
excuse me, Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Motion passes. Item number 3.
Council action is requested to add a new donation bin permit fee pursuant to ordinance 19178.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Item passes. Item number 4.
Council action is requested to approve amending the CARES Act budget.
Is there any discussion on this item?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, Councilmember DeLucy?
I just don't know, where's the amendment? I have the summary. I just wondered specifically, what are we amending on this summary sheet?
Okay. Mr. City Manager?
Sure. I'd ask Brian to just go through that real quick if he doesn't mind.
Okay.
Yes, good evening. It's Brian Kidney, the Director of Finance Administration. The this file does show just a consolidation of all the payments made so far this year, and what we anticipate paying through 12/31/20. If you could look on the bottom line, is it's $11 million is what the total amount so far spent for CARES. The CARES grant that we received through the county is only the $6,953,000. And so we were, if you look at that amendment column, those amendments then adjust each of those line items into just the amount to be reimbursed for the CARES to come up with that $6.9 million.
So we're making changes in all these different areas to come up to the 6.9 to fully expend all the federal money?
Correct. The idea is to expend all the money we can into each of these items. So, and if the council may remember, this is only the county grant portion of the CARES. There's an additional, the city has received grants from the Department of Justice. We've received grants from Transportation Department. And we also anticipate receiving grants through FEMA for public assistance. And so what we're trying to do on the CARES expenditures are allocate those to only those type of expenditures that could not be reimbursed by the other type of grants. And so that's why you see it kind of moved around a little bit. So for instance, the payroll expenses for public safety dedicated, even though that is covered by CARES, it's also covered by FEMA. And we can't request grant funds from both sources. And so in order to max out the total amount of grant that the city can receive, we allocated these costs into those areas that aren't reimbursable from FEMA or from Department of Transportation or from Department of Justice.
Okay, it would just be easier next time if we're going to reallocate money that we could actually see what our specific resolution is reallocating at that time versus a compilation of all of them, just in the future. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, and I'll also add to it. So next month, in January, we'll have the final one, so to speak, that finally allocates all the dollars, since December 31st is the deadline for all the expenditures. So yeah, we'll have the detail plus the summary for the final one, showing for the reimbursement.
Thank you. I
So,
move approval of item 4.
oh, hang on. Councilman Hobart, did you have a question?
That covered it.
Okay. Brian, so, this is showing that we, if you want to put it this way, exceeded what we received by $4 million in terms of what we were granted by the county. I mean, throughout this process, what we have been compelled to demonstrate to the county, so that then they can in turn demonstrate to the federal government that in fact all the money did get out the door in the time frame that was prescribed, and that it went towards the things that we requested it for and that we were obligated to spend it on. So I think it does, your report demonstrates that we did fulfill our obligation. that is one. But as you said, we did receive funding from other sources, and certainly many of the expenses that we incurred are reimbursable through public assistance through FEMA. But part of the reason why CARES Act money was made available was the speed in which we needed, we and everybody else in the country needed that money, because the FEMA process is a longer one. So when we, just for the, clarity of this report, when we look at this and we say we spent $4 million more than we received in these areas, is that $4 million being covered by us, or is that being covered by other grants, or is that still money that we expect to be reimbursed by FEMA sometime in the future?
These would be mostly covered by the city.
Okay.
So some of these
or if there were additional funding coming, CARES Act or whatever it might be called, that we could apply it. I mean, we have the accounting to show this is where we need to be reimbursed for things that we had to pay out of pocket because there was not enough CARES Act money available to cover it.
Correct. What this represents is very specifically, we had 4.1 million of additional dollars that if we had additional CARES funding that we would have been able to get reimbursed for.
I see. Okay, very good. Okay, are there any other questions on this item? Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Item number 4 passes. This brings us to our second readings. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 20-087, an ordinance granting a 10-foot general utility easement to Spire, Missouri, Inc. across part of Lot 1 of Ansley Apartments first plat, second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 20-093, an ordinance authorizing a contract with the City of Lee's Summit, Missouri for the City of Independence, Missouri to supply water to Lee's Summit.
Is there any discussion
Second and final reading. Sorry.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Bill number 20-096, an ordinance approving the amended 2019 to 2020 annual action plan for program year 45 and an amendment to the 2017 to 21 consolidated plan and making the necessary appropriations. Second and final reading.
Any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Bill number 20-097, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of funding from the U.S. Department of Justice, U.S. Marshal Service through the Joint Law Enforcement Operations Task Force for use by the police department and making the necessary appropriations. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes. Okay, this takes us to our first reading. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 20-512, an ordinance directing the Finance Department to remove special assessments on the property owned by John G. and Joanne Alvarez located at 325 West College Street, Independence, Missouri, and declaring an emergency.
Madam City Clerk, I just have a question about this. Is this an emergency, or does a motion have to be made to read this as an emergency?
Because it was put on as an emergency, we can read it as an emergency. I don't think it has to be moved.
I think. Okay, thank you. Is there discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilman DeLucy.
Oh, DeLucci?
Madam Mayor, I just wondered, how much is a special assessment? Do we generally waive it for people? And why are we doing it now?
Mr. City Manager?
Sure. The special assessment totals approximately $2,800. Your second question was, do we typically do this? Typically, we do have a hearing process, and I think that is it's a 30-day requirement after receiving such a notice and assessment. And these costs were incurred, I think, from 2016 to 2018. So it's beyond the appeal timeline.
Why is it an emergency? Why are we doing it now? Someone doesn't want to pay the $2,800? Is that what the deal is?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman.
if I may, Mr. Mayfield, are you still on? Can you help us out with this a little bit?
Yes, I am.
History of this, and you helped me with this, some understanding. Maybe you can help other council members understand why we have this situation.
About a month ago, Mr. Oliveras contacted me. He is in the process of selling the property. It's been in his family since the property's been there. Some of you know Mr. Oliveras might remember that he was dealing with pancreatic cancer during this time. He also had the property on a contract for sale, so there was a gentleman living there that had allowed the grass to grow, and he was the one under city code and our procedure was getting the notices about the mowing. Mr. Oliveras was not aware of that until recently, mainly because, he wasn't getting the notices, and also he was dealing with pancreatic cancer at the time, dealing with his local business that he's had for 30 years in town. Many of you might remember he was the chairman of the Human Relations Commission for 16 years. So he asked if it could be considered if the city would forgive this. The city, we did some research and we saw that we have done this twice before in the last 12 years, once in 2008, in an amount of $10,701.44, and once in 2010 for $2,001.41. It is a rare situation. He is trying to sell the property to someone who will maintain it and make sure that we don't have to deal with any more code enforcement costs in this situation. Had Mr. Oliveris been aware of the situation, the finance department would have mailed him a notice telling him that an abatement cost or special assessment was getting ready to be assessed by Jackson County and giving him an opportunity to appeal. But again, he had a gentleman that he eventually had to break the contract with that was living there at the time. So he did not get the notice. So his period of being able to appeal had ended without him even being aware of it. I hope that gives you kind of a sense of what's going on.
John, do you know the two prior, because I certainly never had memories of ever doing this, but it's been a while back. Do you have information on those two cases previously where the council had granted a removal of the special assessment on those two cases that you found? So in your research, can you tell us what those properties were that were previously removed, the special assessments removed in 2008, 2010?
One in 2008, it was on 108 North Hawthorne, which is in the 1st District. It was for some mowing and also for some demolition costs. That's why it was $10,000. Also, we were going through the foreclosure crisis during both of these situations. The one in 2010 was at 8822 East US 24 Highway, which is near Mount Washington Cemetery, also in the 1st District. That was for some mowing and things of that nature.
So, Mr. Mayfield, the notices that were being sent, I mean, clearly the property was a problem because we do complaint-driven code enforcement. So clearly the neighbors or somebody was complaining or concerned about the condition of the property. So the notices that were being sent, is that your understanding they weren't being sent to Mr. Oliveris, but to his tenants of attention?
Under state law and under our procedure, we mail it to whichever address is listed by Jackson County, Missouri government. And they had the address listed as 325 West College Street. So it was going to that property, and that was during a time where Mr. Oliveris was very ill. So he may not have been going by and getting the mail.
Okay. So, but the tenant is receiving, I mean, there's somebody living there who was getting the mail and not ignoring it, not delivering it to Mr. Oliveris or making him aware that it was coming.
That is my understanding, Mayor.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I spoke with Mr. Oliveris the other day. He told me that it was during the time he was recovering from pancreatic cancer. The home's been in the family for 85 years. It was a contract for deed purchase, which went south, and the notices went to the individual living in the property who was in the process of buying it. Mr. Oliveris, as Mr. Mayfield has said, he's been a businessman in our community for over 30 years. He owned a restaurant here for 8 years. He sponsored a college scholarship for independent students for several years, giving away $11,000 of his own money to assist independent students. And his grandfather was the first Hispanic landowner in Independence in 1920. The circumstances that he was in, I talked with him for quite some time on the phone. he was just recently made aware that there was a cloud on the title. He's trying to close the property before the end of the year. And he had felt like he had reached out to the city to try to get this cleared up, but because of some circumstances within the city, it got delayed and delayed and delayed. So now he's up against the wall on it. Keep in mind too, he also served as the chairman of the city's Human Relations Committee for 16 years. This is a man that we're not asking for a great deal of favor for, but given everything he's gone through, the way he has served us in this city, the length of time his family's been here, the history of his family, he just was asking that we appeal to the council to see if they could help him expedite this and get this situation resolved so that he can close on the property and move on. And that's what he's asking tonight.
So I've spoken with Mr. Oliveris about this problem a number of times over the last 12, 18 months, I would say. I mean, certainly he's a fine gentleman. That's not, certainly in question. If my understanding is correct, Mr. City Manager, because I have worked with Mr. Oliveris to try to find a resolution, and John Mayfield has assisted with that to see what we may be able to do. And the only, it appears, if I understand it correctly, that his only recourse would be that the only way this can get solved is if the council does it by ordinance. Mute your microphones. We're getting kind of a lot of feedback, and I want to make sure. So, have we considered? I know his appeal window is long past, but would it be possible for the council to grant him the opportunity for an appeal? Mr. City Manager.
I mean, this is essentially his appeal, right here. If you're asking if the council can request and authorize an appeal similar to the one we do within 30 days, I'm not sure if that's something that we would be able to accommodate. More or less, this is the appeal right now.
Okay.
Perhaps if I'm thinking about this correctly, I think this would be the appeal right now, unless Shannon has another idea.
Shannon?
Madam Mayor, I would agree with the city manager's assessment of this situation. We have a process established, which is our formal appeal process. So anything extra and outside of that would be a policy decision by the city council. So I would say this is his opportunity to appeal directly to you and see for whatever reason, whether you wanted to go ahead and grant his request.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
you said this is the only way around it. He could pay the $2,800 and that would clear up the title. I assume he's selling the property for at least $2,800. I'm not saying that he's not a fine, upstanding citizen and he's done a lot for the community, because he has. But this council cannot make policy decisions because we approve or disapprove of the applicant. We're financially strapped for cash. There is no good reason for us to waive $2,800, and I'm going to vote against it.
Okay,
Madam Mayor.
yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Oak.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I got myself all kinds of fired up about this in about 50 different ways, especially as a lawyer. I've been an attorney for more than 20 years, and I got to tell you how many times I've tried to fight a notice given by a government body in court that went to an address where the person didn't live. But that was the address that was listed as their legal address for that entity. And I want to be clear about this. It is not the city's obligation to prove that Mr. Oliveras got the notice. Actual notice is not a requirement for a government. That is not a requirement. Actual notice is not required that we gave him notice of his right to appeal. All that's required, you are assumed to know the law. It's one of the first rule you learn in law school is ignorance of the law is no defense. We've got a gentleman here that sold a property on a contract for deed. That means this is an income generating property. I'll bet you all those months that the lawn didn't get mowed, that the city was doing it for him, he was still collecting rent checks. And here we are 4 years later, and who knows what the contract for deed looked like. I've litigated many of those too. One in the Western District for the court in the Court of Appeals for Missouri downtown. This is a dangerous game people play, but you don't get to sell your property on a contract for deed and then pretend like you don't own it. You telling me he didn't drive by that property one time? And if he didn't, it's his responsibility to do so. You think Mr. Oliveras is the first citizen in Independence to own a house and be too sick to mow their lawn? My district is full of those people. You know, I am thankful and proud of the service he did to the city. Every one of us now knows and has met so many people that have dedicated their free time, and it's their hobby, to come to this city and to be on committees and do volunteer work, and it's wonderful. But Councilmember DeLucci put it best. We cannot be giving special treatment to folks because we like them. I appreciate the effort. I appreciate that in a perfect world, he deserves a break, but this is not the break. That $2,800 can go through closing at the title company. The city will get a check, and Mr. Oliveras will still get a check. That's exactly and only what needs to happen. And that is why I, along with Councilmember DeLucci, will be voting no on this. And I hope the council members, as much as the plea is nice, and as much as it's a compassionate plea, this is not how we do rules. We cannot do rules like this. We cannot do rule enforcement like this. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions on this ordinance?
Yes.
Yes.
Question for John is on the that contract for deed recorded at Jackson County, because I own multiple properties, and I guarantee you every time that a notice is sent out for grass, cars, it doesn't matter. It comes to the rental house and also comes to my house. And I've had contract for these out there too, but if it wasn't recorded, it still goes to the two places. But I know myself personally that I've had, you've only listed two that's forgiven. I've had a few that I bought a few years down the road that had an assessment on them for mowing, and it was released by the city, but it was in the transfer end of it. It wasn't held against me. It was against the bank or title company or whoever. But do you have anything on that, John, on the whether that was a recorded deed, a recorded transaction with Jackson County?
I cannot answer, but I did look on CaseNet. There was some legal activity between Mr. Oliveras and the gentleman who had the contract for sale, with Mr. Oliveras breaking that contract. So I know there was some type of agreement because they went to Jackson County Circuit Court, but I don't know for sure if there was anything recorded with Jackson County council member.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else, Mayor.
Okay. Is there anything else? Any other discussion? Okay. This is a emergency, so this will require a 2/3 majority vote for passage. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
I have to read it a second time and then I can call the roll.
Thank you.
Bill number 20-512, an ordinance directing the Finance Department to remove special assessments on the property owned by John G. and Joanne Oliveras located at 325 West College Street, Independence, Missouri, and declaring an emergency. Second and final reading.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Stewart,
No.
Lucy,
No.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
No.
Mayor Weir.
No. Ordinance fails. That takes us to our council member comments for this evening. I will begin with Councilman Stewart.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Perkins.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Just everybody be safe and have a good Christmas.
Thank you. Councilman Huff.
I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a safe one. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Member Lucy.
I want to say thank you to the city employees and our citizens. We've put up with a lot this year. I am very proud of all of us, and I thank you all for hanging in there, and have a good holiday.
Thank you. Councilman Hobart. I didn't forget your time.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, and I'll be brief, but it's going to take a minute. I didn't get a chance, or I sort of missed the chance to speak on our the winning back of our health department, and it was important. I can promise all the folks out there, to every single member of our council, we all spoke about it together and separately, and I know it was important to our citizens. Councilmember Perkins and I attended sort of a tour and a debriefing of Independence's Emergency Operations Center maybe in August, and I'm not going to get into detail, but we learned just how badly the beginning of the pandemic had been handled by the Jackson County Health Department. Now, I understand, without banging on them too horribly much, that nobody expected it either. And it's been a more aggressive and dangerous situation than prior pandemics. However, it became painfully obvious to all of us that we needed our own health department back so that we could have a seat at the table with the other health directors of the other public health departments. We learned as a council that John Barget, one of our two lobbyists, had been working in Jeff City to make this happen. We then were able to engage Strategic Capital Consulting, which is Steve Tilley's lobbying efforts. So both of the lobbyists for the city were working in Jeff City on this project. And I personally spoke with Steve Tilley a number of times and was very encouraging and thankful for his help. And I wanted to make sure to say this because we have had several votes this year to get rid of at least one of our two lobbying firms. And I told Mr. Tilley to his face on the phone that if he helped get our health department back, that I would make sure that I said sincerely and publicly, thank you to him. Of course, I also thank John Barget and his team. But I wanted to make it clear to people that our lobbying efforts made all the difference in the world to get our health department back. And I am very thankful for their efforts. And I have to say, I'm glad that their contracts were re-upped. I think that the health department is a big enough deal that it outweighs the reasons I might have voted the other way, the reasons I did vote the other way. So I wanted to make sure that I said that going into the holidays. Folks are going to be off from work, folks that still have a job. You're going to be home with your families. And Christina Heinen and the other members that are putting back together our health department are going to be busy trying to help out our community through hopefully the end of this pandemic sometime next year. So that's what I wanted to say. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Steinmeier.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to say Merry Christmas to the people of the 3rd District and, of course, throughout the city. Appreciate everything the city does. Hardworking staff of our city keeps everything moving. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. I did want to point out, it was on our consent agenda this evening, but related to Councilman Hobart's comments, that we are starting to fund appointments and hirings to our health department. This was something I did not expect at this time of the year, and I can't tell you how encouraging it is that our health director, Christina Heinen, and our capable city management have found a way to start to make these hires immediately, thanks to our vote this evening to amend our pay plan to create these positions. This certainly won't be done all at once. This will be phased in. There's a number of positions that we have identified that need to be filled that have been now approved by the city council. But I sincerely did not expect that we would be filling any of these positions until next fiscal year. So I'm very grateful that we have the resources to be able to start doing this immediately, thanks to the support of this council. And I think that's something that we can all be very proud of and look forward to with hope how we address our ongoing response to this global pandemic. I think, you know, we're all feeling that the holidays are upon us. I hope it's a time of joy and celebration for people in our city and their families. I know it's challenging for many of us, perhaps all of us, that we're not having the types of celebrations that we're accustomed to, and being able to have to travel and have out-of-town guests and all the things that sometimes make the holidays so special. But I think as we look forward to the new year in a few weeks, although, you know, materially things may not change a whole lot between now and then in terms of getting closer to the end of this pandemic, but just knowing that every day we are getting closer to the end. And I think welcoming in the new year is always a moment of hope and anticipation. So, you know, that's, I think how I'm feeling, and I think, I hope that many people in our community are feeling that way. I know we've all suffered great losses, tremendous sacrifices, some unimaginable loss and sacrifice. But, you know, we are still a community, and we are still here for each other, and moving forward. And we have made tremendous strides in the last several weeks in being able to do our very, very best for the people of Independence in terms of public health. So that's something that we can all be very proud of. So that's all I have this evening. Mr. City Manager, anything else this evening?
Just real quick, in addition to, there's been a team that's been working on standing up the health department, Mike Jackson, Lisa Phelps, and Christina, and myself. So they've been putting in a lot of time the last few weeks to get this where we are today, and looking forward to continue to move that forward. Oh, and Diane Egger, I'm sorry, I apologize, I missed Diane. That's important. So there's been a group of people that have been working hard on this last few weeks. So I want to thank those folks too.
I did think of one more thing. Independence issued its own health order a couple of weeks ago. The largest change from Jackson County was the allowing our bars and restaurants to serve until 12 o'clock midnight. I every few days ask for an update on how that is going, and I'm very proud of our community that we've had no issues with that. We have not had to go out and take any action against any of our businesses for violation of that order. We are in a strange time right now. I think the cases are kind of going up and down a little bit. There may be a day or two where they go down and then they go back up. So I don't think that we can rest easy. The cases are going down. But we may see some leveling off, and we'll just wait and see. This holiday season obviously is very important, but I'm very proud of our business community that they are respecting that order and have done a tremendous job in compliance. And I know allowing them those few extra hours, it just makes a world of difference to them. So I'm very grateful to them.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Since you brought that up, I do want to applaud you for doing that for this city and these small businesses. I know you've worked real hard on changing things, and some of us have too. And so I just wanted to applaud you for that. That was, I know you probably heard a lot of pushback and everybody went the other way, but I do appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, before we get all mushy, we'll adjourn the meeting and wish everybody a very, very happy holiday. Thank you.